Welcome back to News Talk. I'm Bruce DePoit. Coming up for you later this half hour, big changes coming to Playboy. Michael Williams joins us with some thoughts on that. Right now, though, let's get back to our conversation with David Mark, Kevin Robillard, and Robert Schlesinger talking about tonight's big Democratic debate, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on stage in Las Vegas, Nevada. A location picked because of Nevada's impact in the general?
Yeah, that's right. This is really the second or third consecutive election cycle in which Nevada is playing more of an outsized role, along traditionally with Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and some of the other early states. Also, Nevada is a key state in the general election. Its 5 electoral votes have gone with the Democrats with the candidate President Obama the last couple of times, but Republicans think they can get it back. It's also a heavily unionized state, at least in the Las Vegas area, so that always plays well with Democratic audiences.
We talked at the beginning of the last segment about how the tone of tonight's debate will likely differ from what we've been seeing with the Republican encounters so far. Let's talk about the substance. Do you think there are issues that will come up tonight and be subject of in-depth discussion that have received scant treatment or no treatment in the GOP encounters?
Yeah, I think gun control is sort of the obvious one. That's an issue where the Republicans are totally united, and it's almost not worth asking them about. They're all going to say no more restrictions on guns. This is one where there are differences, and I think that's, and there's sort of a gradient here where Bernie Sanders, coming from Vermont, a rural state, one with a lot of hunters, he has a record that at times the NRA has liked. This was a long time ago when the NRA backed him, but it happened. So Bernie Sanders' record on gun control isn't exactly something liberals will love. Hillary Clinton probably has a better one, but she is traditionally a more moderate politician. And then you have someone like Martin O'Malley, who really, really pushed hard for gun control sort of after Newtown and pushed a gun control bill through the Maryland General Assembly. The
former governor of Maryland and the former mayor of Baltimore. Mm-hmm. Are there other issues that are likely to get more attention tonight than we have seen in when Jeb Bush, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, and the other Republicans debated? Is income inequality? Are we likely to hear more talk about Black Lives Matter? Are there things you expect to hear tonight?
Yeah, definitionally, because it's a Democratic debate, and so it's going to be focused on the issues that interest the Democratic debate, or the Democratic base. Mm-hmm. So Black Lives Matter, income inequality. As Kevin said, guns, and I think going back to the last segment, this is another area where you won't see a direct attack, but you'll see someone like Martin O'Malley saying, "Welcome to the pro-gun control camp, guys," or you see Hillary Clinton saying, "Well, I'm glad that Bernie's finally come around to the gun control stance I've had for a long time."
And also just the trade pact, the TPP, this Trans-Pacific Pact, which Hillary Clinton has just come out against, even though as Secretary of State, she basically helped negotiate it and spoke on its behalf numerous times while she was in office. And Bernie Sanders, as was alluded to, can say, "I've been opposed to this one and all other trade pacts like it for all my time in Congress, throughout my political career." So that will be a potential wedge issue between him and Hillary Clinton.
With some echoes, perhaps, of 1992 and the granddaddy of the modern trade deal, NAFTA, signed into law by President Bill Clinton.
Yeah, and so this is an area where Hillary has a lot of work to do if she wants to convince union members and the unions that, theoretically would like to back her candidates and back her candidacy because she is the Democratic favorite, that she's with them. This is an area where Democrats have repeatedly sold out unions once they've gotten to office. If you think back to 2008, President Barack Obama said he was going to renegotiate NAFTA. That obviously didn't happen. So, and you go back, and Clinton, when Bill Clinton ran, he was somewhat of a skeptic of trade deals. So this is an area where unions have been burned again and again and again. So I think it's one where no matter how much talk Hillary gives about how much she doesn't like TPP, there's going to be a lot of skepticism of her claims there.
We are told that CNN had, and maybe technically still has, a podium at the ready for Joe Biden. No one expects him to be there, though they, again, said if you want in, we're happy to accommodate. Was there ever a shot that Joe Biden would take part? And what's your take of his deliberations about joining this fray?
Yeah, I think people are surprised that I think there was some level of expectation that if he was going to get in, he would do it before this debate, so this could be his sort of entrance, and he could really sort of get into the game here. I've always thought that he would run simply because he's run twice before. why wouldn't he run? But he's obviously taking his time, and I would not be surprised if that became a question this evening, if one of the moderators said, should Joe Biden get in? Is he doing a disservice to the party? Is he doing something along those lines to try to mix it up and bring him in absentia?
Yeah, I could, depending on how edgy the moderators want to be, I could even see them asking a question like, is Vice President Biden playing on the sympathy vote here with the passing of his son? I just, if I were a moderator, that's the kind of thing I would think of. I'm not saying I would actually do that, but maybe a somewhat softened version of that question. I think they're going to try and get the other Democratic candidates, or the existing Democratic candidates, to weigh in on that and sort of taunt Vice President Biden one way or another to get in or stay out.
There's talk that when it comes to money and attracting top staff and meeting the filing requirements that individual states have, you don't have forever to wait. You've got to pull the trigger at some point. That said, Joe Biden probably could parachute into the process and make a potential impact much later than your typical politician. He's a sitting vice president, universally known.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Biden would start with huge name ID. He'd also start with ties in all the early states. He knows people there. He has people that he's known for a long time in there from his 2 earlier runs for president. So it'd be somewhat easier for him to assemble that staff. But at the same time, he can't wait forever. You can't jump into this race in December. It just wouldn't work that way, particularly on the money side. It takes a while to raise all that money. You have to be attending these events, attending these fundraisers.
So next year is not an option, and you think December's getting to be too late?
Yeah, that'd be getting to be too late. But, the other thing is Biden keeps pushing back his timeline. At one point, they said Biden was going to decide on whether or not to run for president by the end of the summer. Another point, they said this past weekend, when all his family gathered together in Delaware, he would make a decision. Clearly, both those times have passed, and Biden just keeps continually pushing back when he's going to
There's
decide.
also October 22nd, when former Secretary of State Clinton testifies on the Hill before the Benghazi committee. That could be a milepost where a greater sense of the damage that the potential damage of her email situation becomes calculable, and therefore something for him to put into the mix as he makes ultimately a final decision.
Yeah, and the 3 factors you mentioned, 2 of them are malleable, and money is a great point. We all remember late 1991, Mario Cuomo had a plane ready to take him to New Hampshire to file, and he decided at the last minute not to do it. But the one that is hard, there are hard and fast deadlines in terms of filing, and if you don't get on those ballots, you don't get on those ballots. You can't say, well, I'm a sitting vice president, or I have a deep well of support in the party. So he's going to have to make a decision one way or the other soon.
David, we have about a minute left. Let's use it to talk about the number of debates. Martin O'Malley in particular has expressed frustration with what he views as an insufficient number of debates. Could the number grow?
Oh, sure. If there's a market demand for it, if Hillary Clinton finds herself not doing so well in the race, you better believe she'll be clamoring for more debates. That's traditionally how it goes with these things. There are, I believe, 6 debates scheduled now. That's not an unreasonable number, it seems like. That you can get your voice heard. 6 debates seems like an awful lot, but if it's a close race, certainly there will be more.
No surprise that a challenger would want more. It's more oxygen.
Yeah, that's always how this works. And this, I will say, O'Malley's clamoring for more debates puts additional pressure on him to actually do well in this debate. If he's going to say, we need all these debates, and then it's awful, why are you asking for more debates if you're so terrible? So.
Very good analysis, and a good moment for us to end on. Kevin, Robert, David, thank you all very much. We'll be watching alongside you tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Gentlemen, thanks very much for the preview. When we return, those big changes coming to the pages of Playboy.